beautifully timed presentation, a build on the last topic. We are here today to talk about cutting through the noise, engaging actionable content with a powerhouse panel. My name is Nicole Van Zanten. I am representing ICUC. We are a community management agency, and we are going to introduce ourselves before we hop into questions. I will start right here.
So hi everyone, I am Adela Schultz, Rheumatology Europe Omnichannel Strategy and Operations Lead. I actually used to be, until recently, the Digital Transformation Strategy and Capability Lead, and I moved now into the business unit to go from build to apply to make the new ways of working happen on a daily basis.
Excellent, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Almudena Fraga and I work for Lundbeck in the Global Customer Engagement team. I'm responsible for this long role that you see here on the Channel Strategic Planning and Implementation, which essentially means that I lead a team that is responsible for omni-channel customer journeys, so everything which is related with content, campaigns, channels, and congresses and events. And nice to be here with this powerful panel.
Thank you.
Great. My name is Nataliya Andreychuk. I am CEO and one of founders of Viseven company. Our company actually creators of a wizard, which is a tool of tagging, planning, and transcreating and of the modular content today and publishing to different channels. So we are deeply involved into the topic. We're also a digital content factory for many of our customers today. So we are really like the agency who are working with day-to-day basis with all these content-related topics and deeply involved with our customers and helping with this journey all the way around.
Excellent. So we've heard a lot about trust and transparency around content, just building on personalized content from the last panel. And our first question, we'll start here. Our first question is, what role does content play in the engagement strategy for pharma brands?
A very important one. So I think, as we said yesterday, and as Bill Gates said already in 1996, content is king. And as we heard from Michael earlier today, the real king is the King Kong, when you don't only create the right content, but you also have the effective delivery capabilities to go from idea to execution, especially when we talk about personalization, which is what we need to do, but it's not easy. And so my experience, interestingly enough, and I don't know how many of you can relate to that, but I think traditionally, for whatever weird reason, pharma has, with their digital business transformation, focused a lot on channels. And you still hear, and I'm amazed, you still hear sometimes, well, you know, that webinar didn't work because it's a webinar, or that paid media advertising didn't work because paid media doesn't work, right? But what about the content, right? So question the content, question the packaging, right? So paid media, for example, maybe was the asset, banner, whatever packaging you put out there, was it not strong enough to be a hook? And that's the main thing here, right? That in the typical, field engagements, right? There you have the rep, the MSL that, bring sort of their smile and their stories and their human relationships. In the digital space, content stands completely on its own. So it needs to be strong. And it's a jungle, right? Because we're competing with all those consumer brands that are super strong. And so that's really the challenge that we need to master and we need to be good at. In terms of my experience, I think first of all, as an organization, we need to ask ourselves, what content do we believe and have alignment across the board that we should create? So typically, right, you have the traditional, product content that until not that long ago was sort of our main focus. You have disease awareness, more medical topics that were mostly in the past sitting with medical. Now we need to go broad, to go omni-channel. And then there's also this piece around content marketing, which other industries call content marketing. And I always give to my colleagues the example of Pampers. When I was pregnant, I used to receive newsletters from Pampers. They did not talk about their product, about Pampers, but they were talking about what, as a pregnant woman, you need to be mindful of every month. And it was good content, it was engaging, it created that very important brand relationship that is so critical for next engagement, right? It's all about reciprocity. And I think this piece is something that maybe pharma also still sort of needs to learn of. The next critical point that I would say is important is indeed, we always say it, but I'm not sure we always do it, is, who are we creating that content for? So really to spend really a lot of time before starting to create, to think, who are my customers? Who is that particular segment that I'm creating this for? What are their needs? What are their problems today? What are their jobs to be done? And then third is the delivery, so ensuring that you have an effective delivery.
Exactly. Delivery is also very important, as we just listened in the Michael's speech this morning, right? So to make sure it's done smoothly, we shouldn't neglect the fact that the packaging of the content of different channels should be eliminated by the technology, because if technology isn't making an impact, it's useless. So we need to impact how much effort we're doing for packaging, for tagging the content, so it should be automated, and it is automated, but by all means. Then there was a brilliant thing about planning, so planning the content, so like how many tools do we have to do that, and how many tools do we have to connect, really like to connect all of the agencies, all the participators in the planning process. And then, once we are doing that, the delivery line, how we find the content which we need to copy and to place into this delivery line, and how we are publishing that to the channels. So we shouldn't think about the channels while you are starting to create the content. I have received the comment from one of our clients, like, Natalia, we are actually at the altar. We shouldn't think how the way go through. We need to think about us, so means about content. We shouldn't go and think about channels right now. So you create the content, and this should be consumable for all the channels you have in your disposal, because your task is to lead the dialogue. You are having a dialogue because you are in audience business, so your customers are very broad, and your content has so rich texture today. So like, you need to keep attention on them, not on the channels. So that's how technology should be today.
How does it apply
Yeah,
to your
I mean,
business?
I cannot agree more with what you're saying. When I joined Lundbeck more than 4 years ago, one of my first tasks was, now you need to consolidate the content strategy. And I was coming from the medical device industry, so my first experience with HCPs. And I was going around in the company speaking with the brand teams, and there was this kind of mystery around the role of the HCP. And I was like, what's wrong with these guys, right? And then at the end, I realized that they are people, and people are people, right? Like us. And they just want good experiences everywhere. So if I only keep telling my story about my brands, I'm not going to move a needle. If I don't listen to what they want to hear from us, I'm not going to move a needle. And if I keep promising things that then I don't continue, I'm not going to move a needle. So big piece of the work is to work with the brand teams and medical affairs to build a content strategy that really matches what they want to listen. And so often it's not product information, but it's information that they can apply on a daily basis in the clinical practice, very easy, very quick to access. And now I think after COVID, more than ever, because they are bombarded with information. I mean, they have a lot, and we need to be really sharp on our content offering.
Maybe I have a question.
Yes.
It's not in the script, but so the content strategy. Would you be building it, or do you work with the brand leads to transfer the right ways or best practices, and they create it?
We build it together. I mean, I work for a Danish company. I think I was speaking about Danish culture, which is these big tables with everyone involved, cross-functional teams, and this is the way we co-create the content. We also involve affiliates in the co-creation, because I was also mentioning, sorry for the repetition, that creating content is pain. I mean, it's a long process, it's a lot of effort, money, people, and if you don't ensure that it's going to be relevant for the local affiliates, make no sense that we keep creating this content. So this is how we do it.
Yeah, and having local affiliates early on the conversation is very important, because like once we have this digital content factory in action, so this means like we need to understand how it will be transcreated, localized, so what will be happening. Otherwise, will be not only painful but also expensive and not in time. So we have to take care about that as well. This is not just the words, this is a very instrumental to have everyone aligned on the earliest phase of this co-planning, co-development of the content.
We're kind of diving into the second question here, which is, what are your biggest challenges in optimizing your content offerings? And on behalf of your businesses, what are you doing to help solve that? Start here, if that's okay.
Yeah, so I have more or less totally outlined solutions on the different challenges. So the first one, which is by far the biggest one, is approvals. Approval processes. And I think we need to recognize that it's obviously a very long journey, right, from pharma, going from an environment where campaigns were done once a year or once every 6 months, transferring that to the agility that we need nowadays. And it's going back a little bit to the panel discussion that we had yesterday, trying to solve new problems with old ways of working and mindsets, and toolset is not always working. So I'm very keen on, if anybody in the panel has ideas here, we're exploring, so it's a real journey, right? But we're exploring with moving, to a more sort of intent-based approval process. Obviously, the modular content and the fact that you approve one asset, sort of the full process, and then you have a lighter approval process for derivatives of that asset. So those are different explorations, but it's still a very, very tough one that is sometimes killing things because you want to be agile, you have those insights, you want to bring content to the market very fast, but you're stuck in approval rounds. So maybe, I don't know, if before I go to a next challenge, maybe we can discuss that one.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, because this is actually myself, we have built a whole business around this topic. So maybe we can talk daily about how we optimize content offering and how we go there. But the most important thing in whole the process, maybe this is very trivial what I will say. This is also about structuring and standardizing. So first of all, you have to make this structure and to build your connected content. That means like your tagging, your taxonomy must be in place. And I'm not only talking about tagging on the level of the product or campaign, I'm talking about explicit tagging, because as we are all thinking in the future, the content will be machine readable, not only human, human searchable and readable. So that means like we need to tag explicitly everything and contextually what we have created around this content. Then of course, after we having that, so we have to have this structure of the files which we are creating, so to make sure it's really can be reused in every new channel. We shouldn't think channels, and if even somebody has a crazy idea to use some new social media, so we shouldn't think that we need to create the new format of the content anymore. So this is why technologies are picking up today. So we are not thinking about these things anymore. We are structuring our content, we are tagging it, we are making sure we can make a copy from the digital asset management tool, and we can transcreate it and localize seamlessly across as many markets as we want. And then every market make their own decisions on their campaigns, what they plan, where they publish that, what kind of the channel they are using, and what kind of the insight they want to receive. Because the main thing what technology should do in this offering process is to deliver this seamless experience with modules, with tagging, with planning, with offering, and with even briefing and talking to the agencies, so that the marketeers, that we are only having these brand ideas, we are very intimate with our brand, with our audience, we are thinking about dialogues, we're thinking not about just keeping some dynamics in the campaign, we're thinking about dialogue, about being focused, and about being important for our audience.
Yep. Challenges at Lundbeck?
Well, those are secrets, but I will reveal some. I think that one first challenge is that this is a new way of communicating with our customers, and it implies a new way of doing marketing, right? And when you speak with the colleagues around the organization and you say, we are doing a new way of communicating with customers, everyone is like, yay, let's go for it. But then you say, okay, now you need to change the way you're doing your brand plans. And they are like, hold a second. We need to harmonize the VAs. And I was like, are you sure? This is my stuff. This is my territory, right? And this is a kind of big challenge that we are facing at the moment, and how we can really harmonize that, going step by step, so then we will be easily going to markets and implementing omni-channel campaigns, and we will be able to measure, because if you don't standardize, you cannot scale, you cannot measure, and that's one of the big pain points. And the other one, which I was also, again, sorry for the repetition, saying it 20 minutes ago, is the reusability of the content. It requires a lot of time and money and resources to create content. Companies already have a lot of content, but how can we really use that content and at the same time create new content for really move a needle? Because if we just keep doing the same stuff, we will not change anything at the end.
And I think there's the reusability, and by the way, going back to the approval processes and loops, I would really hope, and I can't see why this wouldn't happen pretty soon, is that the solution, ChatGPT type solution, would help us there. So if anybody in the room already had some ideas, please feel free to raise your hand afterwards and voice it. That's one thing. So I think that's the biggest one, the biggest elephant. The other one, just building on your point of reuse, what I also find it's still an amazing opportunity is to just, to recycle. So whenever, obviously as pharma, we still do a lot of events, right? That's what we still do a lot, in addition to, digital marketing content campaigns. Events, we attend congresses, we have symposium congresses. So how can we at all these occasions, think about repurposing content, about always having, a camera team on site, like here, that is recording everything, medical writers that are sort of writing, short blog summaries, right? Because not everybody would want to listen to a 60-minute webinar. So how do you do a short blog? How do you do like we're doing here, right? That we always have that there's a camera team taking testimonials, saying that, you have all the people together, so let's exploit that. So that's an easier one, I would say, because it's more mindset. And for example, in my role, I'm working on sort of creating a kind of a playbook, playbook where, so that all, because there's a lot of content creators, right? So it's not just you, so a lot of, how do all those content creators, how can they all work in this direction of recycling content and creating it in a consumer style, easy to consume format?
The reason behind that, not using or reusing the content or recycle, can be even more trivial than they think. Like, the people simply cannot find it or cannot understand the language it was created first time. Like, there must be very technical reason for that. And I think we are now training ourselves for the future AI, right? Because AI will be definitely knowing what you need to reuse for this purpose, right? So if it will be no more like very human decision, so because our decision will be always, I know better now, I know better, and I will create better now than I created before, right? If we will change this type of behavior because we are training ourselves right now to that, so I think the reusability will come like logically, so it will arrive there. So because we will improve every stage, searchability of the content, understanding of that, translation.
We have time for a question or two, if there are any. Get a microphone at the front. Thank you. Such a great discussion.
And ideas regarding how ChatGPT can solve the approval processes, please.
Nothing on generative AI. Towards the goal of reusability and efficacy, how do you guys socialize internally with the local markets what's working? So of all the modules that you have, is there, how do you socialize what's working so they can prioritize reusing some of that stuff?
I can take that one, So as I was saying before, the Lundbeck way is co-creating everything with affiliates. So now we are in the process of building omni-channel campaigns, and we always make sure that in the table we have affiliates, key affiliates that can match the global strategy with the local strategy. So when the global campaign will go to them and they need to localize, it's relevant and their effort is minimum. And this is the way for us to ensure that that all the efforts that we are putting make sense, because they will be used by them.
I have much, like a little bit to build on that. So maybe much extreme experience. So like the sharing of the success is also a pain, right? So we have been creating such a project which we called Kiosk. So where the, like that was the avatar of the omnichannel that time expert who was answering the questions which we have been recorded preliminary, like what is working. So like the questions which are from the markets usually arrive to the agency, right? And you can answer to one person, but you cannot answer to 10,000 people in the row. So we created this human-like experience in this kiosk where these questions was answered by, like in a human way, because you can't also guarantee that a human will be sitting over there 24/7 and answering the questions. So we have created that extreme experience. So it has pushed a little bit more further the sharing and the, the people understood at least that they can ask and they will be answered, so they shouldn't be alone keeping that question in silence, so they shouldn't be silent about the questions. So, but that was the extreme experience and I liked it a lot. It was about innovation and sharing.
And there's a last perspective, so very similar to what Almudena was saying. Absolutely, co-creation with the countries is a conditio sine qua non, because everything is happening at local level. They're closer to the customers, of course, stakeholders and patients than we are. And then what we always find is to do in a disciplined way. Well, first of all, to have already when a campaign goes live, to have real-time data. And to force ourselves, and it's tough to find the time, but to force ourselves to find the time to look at that real-time data, so not to wait to the end of the campaign, but really on the fly, and we have those capabilities now, which I find amazing, right, to see on the fly how your campaign is performing, and to be able to amend it on the go. And then we also have the practice of doing always a retrospective, right, the Agile Scrum type retrospective, where we look at data, and based on that, we consolidate what worked, what didn't, so what do we need to stop, continue doing.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
So, thank you.